Hi, I'm Kim Miller. I am the Executive Director and the founder of FemArt organization. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to support and promote women artists. We have an upcoming show called Where the Wild Women Go, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce you today to one of the artists in this show. Her name is Kendall Temotio, and we are looking forward to hearing her responses to some of our questions in this interview. And Kendall, I would like to welcome you and also ask you our first question. What inspires you to do art, and what are your influences?
Well, I think inspiration evolves over time, and I've been an artist for a long time. Since I was a child, my mom was an artist, my grandmother was an artist, my dad, we've had a lot of art exposure growing up. And right now, my inspiration stems from my children. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I found it really challenging to continue to pursue my art with my children around because I don't have a private studio. I'm working in my home, and I finally gave into that and just put my art down with my daughter and let her engage with me and collaborate. So I let her put her hands in my paint and put it onto my piece, and it taught me so much and created something different that I wasn't really expecting. And I just went with it. So it started with this piece here, actually. I drew this intricate line drawing of a woman, and I just let it go and started collaborating with my daughter and let her paint over it. And most of the lines got removed, but I love how it turned out. And it's something that I wouldn't have created on my own. And I think it's totally relatable to adults. You don't need children to do this. You can let go of your art in other ways and collaborate with other people. It's a form of communication and a way that we can share the joy and the process of creating art. So that's part of my inspiration, and it kind of evolved after that. And I've just been doing more intuitive art. So the process has been, I have an idea, or I just get the materials out and I just let things flow out of me, whereas before I would hold back. And so this process of letting go with my daughter allowed me to create more work and not be fearful of the outcome. And I think that's something probably a lot of artists struggle with, whether it's in art or in life. And so it's just really applicable to a lot of things. And my work has kind of exploded after that.
I love that answer, Kendall. That is really important. I am so glad you touched on your children and how they're inspirational, influential, and also about the difficulty, I guess, with pursuing an art career with small children especially. And with FemArt, we are very aware of how many people have said that women do not pursue art careers because of our responsibilities as mothers coming first, which is a top priority in our lives. And I'm just going to do this little plug for FemArt, and that is part of our mission in supporting women artists. Is our goal is to eventually have studio space that will have childcare available for artists. And you mentioned working out of the home. That is another, not obstacle, but something that makes becoming an artist more difficult. And FemArt really wants to hear the voices, and we believe your work is really important. So that's my segue into my next question, and that is about the importance of your artwork. I love that 2 of your pieces that you have with you are in our virtual show. And can you tell us a little bit more about, especially the woman behind you, of that artwork that is in our show?
Yeah, so this piece here was an evolution after this one with my daughter. And I had done a similar figure drawing previously in my career, and it was a really intricate body study of a woman, and it incorporated the bone structure and muscle structure. And I had a lot of really good feedback on that, but it was just black and white line drawing. And after this experience with my daughter and playing with paint, I decided to pursue that again and do another intricate drawing. But this time I when I was done with it, instead of setting it aside and being fearful of doing anything more, I put some paint on it and I just went with it. And it was so funny in the moment, when I was trying to decide on the color, I texted my sisters, which I rely on my sisters for every decision making. So I was like, what color should I do? And then I realized, oh my God, I'm doing it again. I'm fearful of what it's going to turn out like. And I'm not just engaging with it and being intuitive and letting the artwork express itself. So I turned my phone off. I didn't even listen to their responses. And I just grabbed some colors and I started painting like my daughter does, just loving the process. And so it turned out that I just went with it up the spine and added this color to it. And I think it could use more, and I probably should take it out of this frame and throw some more paint on it, but anyway.
You're seeing my head shake no.
Yeah, so that's the story behind that one, and that's part of my released series, which stems off of that process of letting go and releasing yourself into your work. And then this piece, I will pull it a little closer because it's really detailed. You can see that. So that is all texture work that I'm doing, manipulating the paper. And this is a series, another series that I started, and I'm calling it Interbeing. And the reason behind that name is each of these little marks kind of reflects and affects the one next to it, a lot like people. So everything that you do in life and every moment and experience is a reflection onto someone else and something else. So it's also a very intuitive process for me. I'm not really thinking as I do it. I don't plan out what I'm going to make, and I'm working on the back to manipulate the paper. So I'm just like editing the paper, and then I turn it over and see what kind of results I have, and I keep going that way. And then I've added some pigment to kind of bring the texture forward. So that's a little bit behind that series I'm working on, paper manipulation and paper art. So.
Wow. And I'm just really amazed by your answers, because they're wonderful, because you have connected kind of the human connection to the art. And also I love how brave you are. You're talking about that intuitive process. And I think that takes an enormous amount of courage. And as an artist myself, sometimes they say the most courageous thing is just making that first brush stroke or that first pencil mark. And that is what really kind of breaks that fear from trying to do something and having expectations and then allowing the art to reveal itself. That was beautifully said. You said it just really so well.
I add one thing before you go to the next question.
Yeah.
I think that whole process is really relatable to people. And so I actually started doing collaborations with other artists, and I had some pieces of paper that I worked on, and they were just kind of a starting point. Actually, my daughter had painted a little bit of it too, and I handed it over to another artist, a friend of mine, and just, there's no rules, just take it and make something with it. And, you know, that will be our collaboration. And she created a beautiful piece. And I ended up doing another sort of community engagement collaborative piece where I started another drawing like this, and I set it up in a communal space, and anyone that came into the area, there was paint available and they could add to it. And it was kind of that process of letting go and just seeing what happens and experimenting. So
Wow.
I totally challenge every artist who's listening to share their work with someone else. Let it go and let them contribute to it and see what comes of it.
I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because that is a great segue into my next question. And that is, locally, how do you feel that your artwork impacts your local community, and how does your voice, your visual voice, influence and have an impact here in Jacksonville, Florida?
So after I worked with my daughter has a rare genetic condition, and it's something that we discovered when she was 6 months old. It's an intellectual disability, and there's a lot of other things incorporated into that. And thankfully she's on the milder end of that syndrome. But it opened up my eyes to this whole world of differently abled individuals and the special needs community. And I felt like the relationship that I had with my daughter through painting and what I discovered with her voice on paper, I realized I could do with other adults and kids with special needs. So I volunteer with the North Florida School for Special Education. I work with the adult artists in their Art with Soul program. It's a vocational program, and I'm just trying to share my art and my talents with them and share my skills, teach them new things, and just engage with them and help them create new work. I think that this community has a voice, and it's not always heard. It's not always, maybe the ability to speak is not always there. But they have a lot to say and they have a story. And I think art is a form of communication, and it's a way for people to express themselves. We all know that. And it can be used for good in that way. So I think in society, locally, globally, I hope that my work can inspire others to engage with differently abled people in ways they may not have thought of. So.
I love it. And on behalf of Jacksonville and the local community, we are so thankful to have you have your visual voice and to actually be speaking and involving the people who don't have the voices and are in the shadows of many of us. And so thank you for being that voice. And now I'm going to take you to a broader spectrum. And this is going to be our first virtual show. And our first virtual show is going to be able to be seen all over the world. And it is definitely going to be seen by people who are not understanding the spoken language or the written language of what we are speaking. But art, as you had mentioned, it is a communicator it can transcend all different forms of communication, any kind of blocks or anything. So how do you hope to have your work be received globally for this show?
Well, without my voice actually explaining the process and the purpose behind my pieces, I think they speak for themselves in a lot of ways. And the message that comes across may be different for different people, and I think that's fine. And what I put into my piece and the process behind it is for me, and what people get out of that is for them. And I think it's a beautiful story when multiple people from different backgrounds and cultures and experiences can have a moment with a piece of art, and it affects them in a certain way. So I hope that my work communicates something to them. It puts a voice in their head. It helps them speak. I guess that's pretty simple, but that's it.
That is wonderful. You are just a wonderful person, an incredible artist. I've really enjoyed talking with you in this interview, and I am so grateful on behalf of all of FemArt and the world that you are in this show. And I am so grateful to have your visual voice in Where the Wild Women Go. And I have been telling women, I'm really glad that you're a wild woman. I'm glad that you are voicing, and you've overcome your fears. And you have not just overcome your fears, but you also have influenced and impact so many other lives because you are bold enough to put your voice into your art. And I am very grateful. And I'm so grateful to have you in this show. And with that, I'm going to ask my final question that is really important for people to get to know you. And that is, when you are preparing to be in that creative mindset, do you have a preference on your beverage? Do you prefer caffeinated drinks like coffee or tea? Or do you prefer alcoholic beverages that will calm the beast within.
Well, I've had so much coffee this morning already, so I am drinking water to calm my nerves and keep my voice, able to be heard. My daughter just walked in, sorry. So this is Lexi.
Hi, Lexi. Oh, she's beautiful. Hi, Lexi.
We're going with it. You came to join us? But yeah, so I'm drinking water, and thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you as well and learning more about FemArt, and I look forward to seeing this show and seeing what comes of it and working with you guys in the future. And I appreciate all that you guys are doing for the community. It's, we need programs like this, and it's great.
Thank you so much, Kendall. And here's cheers with water. And because of your coffee earlier, cheers with the coffee.
I'll probably get some more after.
And your daughter is lovely and beautiful, and you are just such a beautiful person. So thank you both for being with us today. And we look forward to seeing your artwork in Where the Wild Women Go.